Welcome to the Transfer Exchange Show. We are live and it's the Super 6 podcast. We're joined by Farrell Keeling and Steve K. How you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Good, not bad at all.
Good.
Yeah, very good, man. Very good. Thanks for having me on again this week. Always a pleasure to see your faces.
Of course.
Yeah.
Plenty to talk about tonight. Arsenal in and out of crisis like the hokey cokey. No Salah, no problem for Liverpool after their 4-0 win against Bournemouth and Arsenal's 5-0 win against Crystal Palace. Let's start with the 4-0 win against Bournemouth. And then we'd take a little look at the latest news on Mohamed Salah. But Darwin Núñez stepped up yesterday and Diogo Jota as well with some excellent finish, Farrell. Maybe Jota's one player that seems to be overlooked in and out of injuries a little bit, but when he does play, he makes a difference, doesn't he?
No, he's been massively overlooked, I'd say. So it's a weird one, actually, because I was talking about this with someone else who sort of reports on the club. And if you look at sort of Liverpool's forward line, you say everyone's fit, everyone's available, everyone's firing. The weird thing is you probably don't even start Jota then. You probably would go Diaz, Núñez and Salah. That is the sort of accepted best starting front three. But whenever Jota does start, we don't have a forward in our ranks currently who's as good a finisher, as consistent as finisher as Jota, especially if you look back on his first goal against Bournemouth. It's an extremely tight angle. And the level of conviction on show from the Portuguese international is just absolutely unrivaled in Liverpool, and I'd say probably in most Premier League clubs. I was looking at the stats sort of just out of sheer curiosity, just to see how he's been sort of stacking up this season. He's actually been having a very good season in terms of...
It's a very good season so far.
Yeah, very good season. He's on 15 goal contributions in 1,169 minutes, which puts him at a goal or assist every 77.93 minutes. I've not looked to confirm, but I would venture that's probably the best goal contribution rate of any of the current sort of Liverpool forwards. Darwin Núñez, for instance, is on 87.85. I think Salah is probably, I would venture around the 80-85 mark. I don't think he's quite as sort of regular as Jota has been, even though he has scored more goals and registered more assists this season. Jota's gone massively under the radar. And I suppose this is the beauty of this sort of Liverpool team, and certainly, like, if you look at the statistics, we do tend to, I think most of our sort of goals this season have come in the second half of action. But having players, obviously already on the pitch of Jota's quality helps, but having players like that you can just bring off to help change a game is part of the reasons why we've been so effective in the second half. Because they're all profiled so differently. Fundamentally, I don't think any Liverpool forward is exactly the same. And that's been a major plus for us.
Yeah, no, I agree. Steve, Jota, he always seems to be a constant threat when he comes up against Arsenal. A player that I think many people have kind of dismissed as there's always a lot of talk about Salah and how Núñez could potentially reach his potential, but Jota's kind of doesn't really get mentioned too much.
Yeah, I mean, and I think he should, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm a really big fan of Jota. I mean, he's, Farrell's just brought up Núñez's number there, and I think he gets a little bit unfairly he gets a little stick on social media and from rival fans. But yeah, I mean, look, Jota. I mean, I'm a big fan. He's for me. If everybody's fit for Liverpool, he starts. I think he fits, the Liverpool way of play better than he does Darwin Núñez. I mean, I know, he's got the stats, he's got the assists, but I just feel if you need a goal, if you need that little bit extra special magic, if you need something to happen in the last minute when you're not playing well, I'm not sure if Núñez gives you that. But but Jota does. It just constantly time. I mean, when I watch Liverpool play, you're watching the games, and they may not be doing it one week. They may be off it, but if he's on the pitch or he's on the bench, you've always got it in the back of your mind that this guy's going to do something. Or he's going to come off the bench and he's going to score a goal, or he's very. I mean, he's more like a Firmino to me than what Nunes is. So he sort of fits there. The way they've played in the past, if you like. But for me, yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Jota, and yeah, I mean, he's a scourge of Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? He just constantly. Maybe that's why I always think he's going to do something. But to be fair to him, whoever he plays, whenever I'm watching him, this guy seems to step up with an assist and with a goal, and yeah, he should be applauded for that.
I think when he first came to Liverpool, or when there was news that Liverpool were looking at him, I don't think there was much hype around it. But when you look at his goal contributions at Wolves, it's like 64 goal contributions in 131 games, and that's for a Wolves team who aren't really clinical in front of goal. And then since he's joined Liverpool, he's got 73 goal contributions in 135 games for Liverpool. That's a solid stat that most clubs will pay serious money for, and it seems like they've got a very good bargain there.
Brilliant buy,
yeah. Nice welcoming. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm very good, thanks. Sorry for being a bit late. My PC decided to do an update as I was trying to learn. Sorry about that.
No problem at all.
I sort of get the gist of what you've been talking about. I would probably have to say, actually, I probably slightly disagree with you, Steve, in terms of who offers more. I think Nunes actually offers more. That might surprise you.
It does, yeah.
He's a bit unpredictable. Well, he's unpredictable, isn't he? And he's very young, and he does miss a reasonable number of chances. But if I was playing Liverpool, I'd rather Jota played than Nunes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
I'd rather Jota played because I think we can manage him.
Oh, I see.
Rather than we.
You think the unpredictability of Nunes would be more of a danger for you?
Yeah. Yeah, he has got something about him. He's got pace, and the thing is, really, just doesn't care either, does he? I know he gets a little bit of stick.
Doesn't hide. That's good.
He doesn't hide. That's a better description. He doesn't hide. Just carries on. If he misses a chance, or maybe fluffs a pass or something, doesn't faze him at all. He gets on with it. And I read something today actually that he's the first player in the Premier League in all competitions to score 10 goals and have 10 assists.
Yeah, he's got 10 goals, 10 assists in 31 appearances this season.
Which goes a little bit under the radar.
Yeah.
Massively under the radar.
Yeah.
The narrative this whole time has been a flop, an expensive flop. Yeah.
I don't think listen, I don't I don't think he cares. He just gets out every time. What does surprise me sometimes, actually, is that he doesn't play as often as I thought he might do. Because I think he is quite dangerous. So
might want some more exposure in front of goal, or a bit more. I don't know. With that unpredictability, you lose that kind of structure. Do you think there's a reason why he might play?
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's his lack of ability to play to the system that Klopp wants. I think he does that very well. It's just the fact that he probably does miss more chances than a striker should do. But that only proves that he is really dangerous, because he can get in those positions. And at some point, you would imagine that will change. If he went on a run of 3 games in the Premier League, 3 or 4 games in the Premier League, and he scored each game, that's just about confidence, I think. That's just about having... Listen, he's playing alongside one of the best strikers. People say he's a winger, but he's playing alongside one of the best strikers in world football, in Salah. So, he probably looks across at Salah and thinks, "Oh, I wish I could score the number of goals that he scores." Probably from as many chances, because of course Salah creates a lot of his own goals, doesn't he? A lot of it isn't on the back of assists from other people.
Yeah.
Listen, I think Jota's a very good player. He's a great player to have on the bench, I think, or he's a great player to have, as in this circumstance when he's covering for a player who's absent for whatever reason. But for me, I would, if I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm thinking Nunes is the better option.
What's your thoughts on that, Farrell? Would you rather start with a fit Jota or a fit Nunes?
I think a lot of this season has been kind of a story of like sort of horses for courses, that kind of thing. But having those options means you can do that. But I think of the two, I think I'd absolutely agree with Kev. I'd rather have Nunes sort of starting, which seems incredibly harsh, given I say, the numbers I've sort of told you about with Jota, who's been fantastic this season. But he does give you a lot more, Nunes. And I do think you look at Liverpool when we start without him, when he's on the bench, and we do see it's always been that kind of balance with Liverpool, isn't it? It's you play him, and then maybe if he doesn't score, he creates those chances, but Liverpool might not score. But if you don't play him, Liverpool just simply don't create as many chances. Liverpool, and I personally rather have a Liverpool that at least looks deadlier, even if it doesn't score. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
At least then you always have the opportunity to go out and win a game, and that's what he gives you. I think to a degree as well, he hasn't been helped. I think because Klopp made a comment in one of his sort of prior press conferences that I think he alluded to the fact that Nunes was aware of the sort of general narrative, the general critique about his performances, about his sort of wastefulness, and I think that sort of partly impacted his game. But I think he's getting to a point now where, he came to Liverpool with a hell of a lot of ability and a hell of a lot of potential. I think the initial critique was for Klopp was that he wasn't tracking back enough. He's now doing that. He understands how to counter press. He understands how to play in a Klopp system. He's creating plenty of chances. The only criticism that remains, of course, is that perhaps he's not putting away as many of the chances, but he's only in the limelight in the first place because he's creating this many chances in the first place. Do you know what I mean? It's astounding that you look at, say, the narrative around Erasmus Højlund, and I think the general narrative has been a lot more kind of, oh, he's a young lad, give him time. It's encouraging, it's supportive. Nunes, it's he's wasteful, he's wasting money and all this, and it seems to be gradually shifting, but it's not quite there yet. So I would, of the two, I'd rather have Nunes starting.
Okay. And Mohamed Salah injury looks like he could be out for at least a month. But it's encouraging with the likes of Nunes getting into a bit of form and Jota coming back from injury. Do you think you'll be able to handle it, or do you think it's a little bit of a worry for you guys?
I mean, we were always likely going to be without him. I think most of us kind of assumed, and I think Liverpool kind of assumed we were probably going to be without him for much of January. And we've done pretty well. Bear in mind, we went to Arsenal, and bear in mind that we weren't just missing Salah, we were missing Dominic Szoboszlai, Matip's ruled out for the season. Without our two starting fullbacks, Andy Robertson, Costa Simicas, his deputy. We started. We start? No, sorry, we didn't start Conor Bradley against Arsenal, I don't think. But either way, you look at sort of the players that were there missing. I think McAllister was sort of still out injured, if I remember correctly, as well. You go over to Arsenal, look at Arsenal. We talked about this before as a potential title contender. We went over and got the win. Yeah, absolutely. Battered in the opening half, had to really, withdraw and kind of resist. But I think, is that not the sign of champions? I don't think. You know what I mean? If you can go through and do that again, the Newcastle result as well. I looked through, and I think that was another. The Bournemouth one in particular was one I sort of personally looked at and thought, well, that could be a bit of a banana skin. I think I looked at the stats, and I think they, up until we beat them, they secured 19 points out of a possible 24 in the league since City beat them 6-1. Incredible form Bournemouth were enjoying. Incredible form. It's not easy to go over to the Vitality Stadium. It's more, it's probably most similar to the Luton Stadium, and it's that very sort of close in. It's not an easy place to go. I think you go over and to win 4-0 without your top scorer, without Dominic Szoboszlai, without your fullbacks. This is a very, very good Liverpool side. I think I'd absolutely back them to get through January with at least, if you're looking at sort of beyond the cup fixtures, Chelsea and Arsenal, I think Liverpool should be aiming for at least 4 out of 6 points there. And I don't see any reason why they can't go and win both.
Okay. It's fighting talk from Farrell. Steve, the league race is fully back on. Arsenal in and out of crisis, up and down like a yo-yo. 5-0 victory against it wasn't a very good Crystal Palace side. I know people are trying to take away everything they can from that victory by pointing out the fact that Crystal Palace were poor, but Arsenal still had to score the goals, and especially the fact that Arsenal struggled to score in previous games, and a 5-0 victory is a sort of a good marker.
Yeah. I mean, 5-0, clean sheet. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. The team that needs a striker and can't score goals, it's 5. So this is what Arsenal can do basically when it clicks, and this is what I was explaining last week. If it clicks, Man City and Liverpool better watch out, and that's a fact. I've got my doubts whether it can be consistent like that. I have. I thought a little some of the views on the game and the views on players. I thought that they was a little bit over the top and exaggerated, and that's why I'm not getting too excited. I don't get excited if over. I don't react if we're all of a sudden lost a couple of games like we did, and I won't get overexcited when we smash someone 5-0. I'll see what happens over the next 3 games, and we'll go from there. But it was a very good performance. It was Raya in goal probably had his best game in an Arsenal shirt. One of probably the best distribution performances that you've possibly seen all season. Unbelievable assist for the goal. Possibly come close to having another one. And I think whether he turns out to be the right goalkeeper or not, at the end of the season, this is what Arteta, I think, is those little moments that he's trying to find where your goalkeeper can do things like that. But to be fair to Ramsdale, he did it the other week as well, with it. So, but whoever's in goal, we're not complaining when you go and win 5-0. But, I'm still worried a little bit about, the forwards. Jesus got a lot of plaudits the weekend. I didn't think he played well.
Mm-hmm.
And Saka got a lot of plaudits. I didn't think he played well. But if you can not play well and smash someone 5-0, then the rest of it's working half decent. So that's like what I was saying last week. If Jesus can find a bit of form, Saka can get back to the way he was, then this can be a regular occurrence. And look, we're going to get a lot more harder games than this. We've got Liverpool coming up, but we play like that, they're in trouble. I mean, Liverpool already know what we're capable of. They've seen the way we played up against Anfield last season. They see the way we played against them in the first half. If that can be consistent through over 90 minutes, then, like Farrell says, he'll think Liverpool win the game. I think Arsenal could possibly be favourites and also could easily win the game. So, yeah, but, we'll see. We're at home on that one. The Sharks came to the Emirates and we beat them 1-0. And, and now the Piranhas are going to come and there's no reason why we can't, on this type of form, beat Liverpool as well.
All right. I know you said that Saka got plaudits and Jesus got plaudits. I would have said that out the game, Trossard, Zinchenko and Gabriel probably got most of the hype around it. But Gabriel Martinelli coming off the bench and slotting away two lovely finishes is definitely a sign of encouragement there, though, Steve, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, funny enough, I didn't think Trossard played well either, to be honest with you, apart from a goal. But to be fair, I didn't have a very good stream I was watching on, to be fair. But look, Martinelli, I mean, this season, again, the way he come on, 2 excellent finishes. Again, that was Martinelli last season. And this is what I keep telling people, keep telling them, it's very difficult to find line on what Arsenal need. If these click, if these tick, then teams are in trouble. They'll be in trouble. But Martinelli, for me, this season has gone a little bit under the radar. It always seems to be Saka. For me, Martinelli's the one that gets me off my seat this season. When he gets the ball and he's running at defenders, he's the one who I think something's going to happen. And not Saka. He still needs to up his game for me. But two lovely finishes. brilliant cameo. And also, while we were just on the subjects of cameo, what an excellent 20 minutes from Emil Smith Rowe. I mean, that's in like a new January signing. If he comes like and does that every week, if we can get back to full fitness and back to his England form again, that's more goals from the midfield as well. So yeah, happy, but I'm not getting carried away. I want to see what happens over the next 3 weeks to know whether this is going to be regular. So we'll see.
All right. And Kevin, Manchester City, on back in fine form. Kevin De Bruyne back. Is this where they just switch on their cold-blooded mode and just absolutely blitz everyone for the rest of the season and barely drop a point? You're on mute. You're on mute. How do I mute him? There we go. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I was saying actually that Farrell will hope we do drop points because we've still got to go to Anfield yet. So, but we're in a great position in that if we won every game between now and the end of the season, we'd win the league. So you always want to be in a position where you're in control of your own destiny. But they do seem to have that, they've got back on track. They've got the mojo back a little bit. But, as I said last week and the previous time, Liverpool will be a big challenge. And that's not a negative about Arsenal. It's not. Liverpool will be a challenge, I think. They have got the bit between the teeth as well. I think there's 15 games unbeaten now.
Yeah.
So, I think maybe Steve misses the point a little bit. I don't think any of us are saying Arsenal aren't a good team. They're still a very, very good team. I just don't think they quite have the consistency or the belief. But City with De Bruyne...
That's why I said wait and see, Kev. That's why I want to wait and see.
Absolutely.
So I'm not saying we're going to go and win the league. I'm not saying, I can see that there's still things that ain't right with Arsenal. I'm not saying we're the greatest. I'm not saying, we're doing this. I'm saying that let's see because there's still faults in the side.
Yeah, listen, and the great thing about the league being so competitive in that, it's not just about City and Liverpool. You've got Arsenal, you've got Aston Villa, you've got Tottenham Hotspur. Those teams are all very, very competitive. So all of those teams have the opportunity to take points off the teams around them, which in a strange way, as much as it helps them, it helps other teams as well. So, I would hope that when Liverpool go to Arsenal, that Arsenal win.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. I'd like Arsenal to win. That's because, I do think in a run-in, we're more likely to be successful than Arsenal are. But in a run-in, I couldn't call it against Liverpool. I couldn't. So, I do think Arsenal are capable of beating Liverpool. But, I then look at Liverpool and I think at the moment they've got this fantastic belief about them, that they've got a consistency. They've got this, they can see, you can see the desire in their eyes when they're playing. And, also, which is a massive thing, the team spirit is very, very good at Liverpool, I think. You just get on with it, no Salah. The other players who are missing, Liverpool just get on with it. So, but I'm glad, I'm glad to be in the position we're in. 2 months ago, we didn't win a game in 7 games, I think. So, to be back where we are, earlier than I thought we might be. I thought we'd raise a challenge again, but to be back in being very competitive before we get to the end of January. He's very good, but undoubtedly Kevin De Bruyne being back is massive. Doku being back is massive, and Erling Haaland will be back. If not for the FA Cup tie, he'll probably be back for the league game against Burnley next week. They're massive pluses for us. Massive.
Yeah. And I think that everyone knows how good De Bruyne is, but when he comes in and does what he done against Newcastle, it sort of just adds a bit more to it, and the players start having that belief. It just builds that belief amongst the fans as well, and it all steamrolls and sort of you get that momentum going. So look, it's going to be a good Premier League run this year. We've got multiple teams in it, and as you said, Aston Villa and Tottenham are definitely going to have something to say in this championship race as well.
Yeah.
All right. There's been plenty of tier lists going around this week. In fact, one of the tier lists has caused so much controversy. Podcasts have been going up and down since. But one of the big things that have come out of it is who is the greatest midfielder of all time in the Premier League. Sorry. Scholes, Gerrard, or Kevin De Bruyne. 3 names that have popped up multiple times. Arguments have been going around against with friends. But who would you say is the greatest of all time? Steve, we'll start with you. Scholes, Gerrard, Kevin De Bruyne, 3 names that have been going around since this tier list has gone about. Who would you say is the greatest midfielder the Premier League has seen?
Yeah, I mean, whoever I'm going to choose, don't get it. There's no slight on any of these.
Yeah, I was going to say. This seems to be what happens, yeah? As soon as you start arguing for one, everyone's like, oh, what? What are you trying to say?
About?
It's not that. This is respect for all of these. Like, the fact that this conversation about these 3, like, they're all goats. But who would you say is the greatest of all time?
All goats and all a little bit, all a little bit different in their own way. A couple in the same era, one in a different era, playing different types of teams, and some teams were better than others at the time. Where some some wasn't. But I mean, it's all subjective, isn't it? And I think at the end of the day, it's what floats your boat. Out of these 3. I mean, all 3 of them are just, Premier League greats. Let me say that as first. As the sort of the type of player that I like to watch. I would, I like to watch someone like the Kevin De Bruyne, like a player. He's someone who, that's someone who's got that vision and. Maybe because I've probably seen more games of him because of so much football on the telly lately. When Gerrard and probably Scholes about, probably wasn't as much football on. So I've seen a lot more of De Bruyne. The vision of De Bruyne, absolutely incredible. The way he can, I mean, he came on against Newcastle, and I'm not saying like he carried Man City, because nobody carries Man City because they've got so many great players. But it just shows how great he is to come on, and he literally changed that game. Still 32 years old. He's been doing it for so many years now. Scholes, the master of, the way he just glided through that midfield. Again, an absolute, colossus of a player. Probably out of the 3, probably the one that I probably, again, enjoyed watching the less, not to say that I didn't enjoy watching him. But for me, it's got to be Steven Gerrard out of those 3. He could literally, to an extent, do everything that De Bruyne can do. Obviously, there's some certain things better than others, or some, but he could do everything, and I think he could do that little bit more. And I think Gerrard just was elite in so many different positions. I mean, Farrell will correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, I'll bow down to Kevin and Farrell's knowledge of these both. Them 2 players. But for me, Gerrard, goals season after season, 20 goals, a season, assists, probably, match it, probably the same amount of assists. I think did he play right back in the European Cup final once and took him to win the European Cup, or he's played there, he's played midfield, he's played as a false nine. He's literally done everything. And to be fair to him, he's probably played, in probably a lesser team than what Scholes as De Bruyne. And if we're talking about which one has had to carry the team more than anybody, that's Steven Gerrard. And he's done it to an incredible standard. So, yeah, for me, assists, goals, just the positioning that you can play literally anywhere. I would have to say it's Steven Gerrard. Not obviously by a long way, other two great players, but yeah, for me, Steven Gerrard.
All right. Farrell. I mean, you got one Man United player in there. You got like your club legend. You got Kevin De Bruyne. So, look, who would you say is the greatest midfielder of all time to play in the Premier League?
Well, I'm sure my answer will shock absolutely no one. I mean, I have to preface this again by sort of saying, huge respect to Kevin De Bruyne, huge respect to Paul Scholes. We're talking absolutely elite, the elite of the elite when it comes to midfielders, not just in the Premier League, but in world football. We have to start off by saying that. But yeah, no, I fundamentally agree with Steve. Obviously, for me, it's always has been Steven Gerrard, even when we've included Frank Lampard and these kind of debates. There's always going to be Steven Gerrard for the foreseeable future, to be honest. I mean, you look at, Steve mentioned the sort of Champions League final. Let's not forget it was Gerrard's sort of goal that sort of leads the charge in Istanbul. I mean, I've got literally the team right here in front of me that started the final. Jersey Dudek, Steve Finnan, Jamie Carragher, Sami Hyypiä, Djimi Traore. Remember Djimi Traore? I remember Djimi Traore. Believe me. Louis Garcia.
He's quality.
Garcia was quality, yeah. But I think if you compare forward line, you look at Milan Barros, we've got Harry Kewell, who's again all right, but you compare that to sort of sides, you compare that certainly to sort of Champions League final sides that United have fielded, that City have fielded. I think that the pertinent thing for me would be if you were to look at the Istanbul as almost a sandbox and sort of say, right, take Gerrard out of that, right? You're 3-0 down to one of the greatest AC Milan sides of all time. They're one of the greatest European sides of all time. Stick Scholes in, stick De Bruyne in. Would you trust either of them to lead the kind of comeback you saw in a game of such magnitude in that Liverpool side? Not in a top-class City side, not in a top-class United side, in that Liverpool side. Would you trust either of them to completely turn the game on its head like Steven Gerrard did?
I don't know. Do you know what it is, yeah? Do you know what it is? And I see your argument because Gerrard has that sort of stick it between your teeth, grab him by the scruff of the neck, and that's always been him. But then I saw Scholes come out of retirement and go back to a Man United team which was shot and bring them back from the dead. And I see what Kevin De Bruyne's doing now. But I see your argument because that Liverpool team was not even close to what this Manchester City team
It's absolutely no slight on those two players, by the way. Genuinely, they're elite. I'd love to have Kevin De Bruyne in this.
Do you think that Gerrard played? What positions did he play in, though, Farrell? For me, Gerrard played in like about 5 or 6 different positions in his career.
He played in loads.
I mean that on it, and he was elite in every single one. For me, that just does it from the start. It's all like not ends the argument, but for me,
you can tell the story in strikers. You can tell it in strikers. You look at the sort of the symbiotic relationship he had with Fernando Torres, the similar relationship with Luis Suarez. He's and obviously, as he was getting older, he started being playing deeper. That season where we almost win it in 2013-14, he's sort of not quite a holding midfielder, but he's sort of in between, what we would understand as a holding six and a sort of more central midfielder by that point. And it's just, but this is the thing I think, Kieran, we were talking about, that sort of swashbuckling, sort of no nonsense sort of style of football. Right. He had everything else. Yeah. There was literally, I can't. I'm sure someone will pop in, if they do. But I can't think of an area Steven Gerrard was weak in. He could tackle, he could score, he was technically elite. He had everything you could want in a midfielder. Steven Gerrard had, and he was the kind of player you would turn to in a crisis and say, "Pick this game up and win it for us." And it's let's be honest, through probably the vast majority, well, certainly that certainly from my memory, the vast majority of his career, he wasn't always playing in elite Liverpool sides.
He played a false nine as well. Didn't he play in a false nine at times as well?
It hadn't been invented.
I think. I wouldn't say as we understood it, no, but he would certainly be in those kind of positions. As I say,
He'd pop up in positions.
You think of the Torres years when those two were just honestly, it was a symbiotic relationship. They just
well, I was going to say he seemed to drop. Torres used to they used to drop, and Torres used to drop into.
Yeah, they had an unbelievable.
That was more what it was. Yeah,
I think I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure Gerrard has sort of spoken about this and said that Torres was the one player he enjoyed working with the most. Well, the one striker certainly he enjoyed, and he's played with Luis Suarez, probably the greatest striker of our generation. Come on.
That's another debate for another day.
Thierry Henry, the greatest striker that's ever played in the Premier League.
We're not getting on to this.
We're talking of my generation.
Making this to next week.
Listen. Absolutely, I'll absolutely agree with you on Thierry Henry. I'll agree with you, but we're talking, of course, Suarez in his own right as well as a phenomenal striker. I'm not. And
Aguero as well.
Thierry Henry. Oh yeah, of course. But I think in the current, but at this rate, honestly, we'll just go through all of them. I was talking about the all-time great Premier League strikers.
We could be
here all night, and we've not even got into the defenders and goalkeepers. But we'll stay on topic because I'm very curious to hear Kevin's opinion as well on this as well.
Yeah.
But for me, obviously I do have a bias. I write about and support Liverpool, but I have not seen a Premier League midfielder to date that does more than what Gerrard can do either in an elite Premier League side or in a side that has been with Liverpool in history, bang average.
It's a very good argument, and it's kind of making me think about my decision.
To be fair, there's no wrong. You know what I mean? Like you were saying,
there's no
wrong answer. They're all brilliant.
When you add that argument to it, it's like making me think to myself, am I kind of not a little bit dismissed?
Oh, you made your choice already. You made your choice.
Oh, my choice is made. 100%. But now it's like, oh, mate, you know what?
Yeah.
Right about
honestly, play the Istanbul game in your head. Play it in your head.
Honestly, I watched that game with my mates, and as football fans, when you're younger, we weren't very nice about the fact that Liverpool were losing in that first half. Yeah. But I did say, if Liverpool score early in this second half, this game's on. And the minute Liverpool scored, we were all on my mate's side. We were all cheering for Liverpool, and it was just an excellent day. And one of my adverts got played at half time during the Champions League final as well. So that was a bonus. But Kevin, I know you've been sitting here waiting that your namesake has been dismissed massively.
I know, but it's my personal opinion, and I suppose you can't argue with that because they're all great players. I mean, you could add to that Patrick Vieira, another City legend, Roy Keane.
I was nodding.
David Silva. But if we're going through these three, the first thing I would have to say, and by the way, I think in the Champions League final, I think Liverpool's best player was probably Didi Hamann, by the way. I think he was unbelievable in that game. He was unbelievable in that game.
He was. Jari Littmanen.
But I would have to say, if you're talking about the best midfielder in the Premier League, for all his absolute fantastic ability, I'm not sure whether you could pick a player who never won the Premier League.
No, I don't think
Shots fired. Shots fired.
It's the old World Cup argument, that isn't it? If you ain't won the World Cup, then you can't be better than.
I mean, Messi did have that labelled on him.
Yeah,
he was still the best in the world, though, wasn't he?
Look, we're talking about
it wouldn't be Scholes for me, certainly. It wouldn't be Scholes for me.
No,
he had a few flaws in his game. Fantastic footballer, but he had a few flaws in his game for me.
Because he played for Man United, Kev. That was the flaw.
No, well, that was a big one, but he was a very, very good footballer, I think. By the way, but
yeah, he was.
I don't know whether he just wasn't dynamic enough for me. I don't think he had that drive in him that led the team on. I think he was, and I can't. It's difficult to disagree with Farrell's choice, but for me, I'd have to go for Kevin De Bruyne. You know, I would, because he's won absolutely everything, absolutely everything. While he's played in the Premier League, he's won the Premier League, he's won the FA Cup, he's won the League Cup, he's won the Community Shield, he's won the European Cup, he's won the Super Cup, and he's won the Club World Cup. So during the period of time he's been at City, he's won everything at least once. And I think he's just so reliable. The one thing he does have, which is, and the only failing really that Gerrard had, was his temperament. I do think he let Liverpool down quite a few times with his temperament. He would, get a little bit carried away. I think I remember once he came on for Liverpool against United at Anfield, and he was sent off after 13 seconds or something crazy like that. But listen, it's a difficult call. If somebody was to say it's Steven Gerrard, I can't argue with that. My own personal choice would be Kevin De Bruyne, but I wouldn't be upset if there was a vote and it was Steven Gerrard, because it's that close for me.
Kevin De Bruyne, 244 appearances in the Premier League, 65 goals in 106 games. Steven Gerrard, 504 appearances in the Premier League, 121 goals and 100 assists. I mean,
how many assists for Kevin De Bruyne?
Yeah, I think it was like ridiculous, 160.
So I think goals per game and assists per game,
106
comes out on top in both of them.
Goal contributions, you're talking 176 goal contributions in 244 games in the Premier League. That is outrageous. That's ridiculous.
It's outrageous, but we almost run into the Lampard argument, don't we? And that, Lampard, I think he's pretty sure he scored more goals than Gerrard has. And it's, if we go purely on a goals and a sort of assist basis, I think it completely skews the argument to a certain degree. Don't get me wrong, we have to factor it in, but I think if you're looking purely, at the players individually, which is why I'd argue to a certain degree, we also need to be careful when we invoke trophies to a certain degree, because it does take into account the context of what the team you were playing in and that kind of. Do you know what I mean? Like if you swap De Bruyne around and put Gerrard in, City win everything still, probably win more. Do you know what I mean? I would argue that personally.
Sure,
I know that's I know it's also slightly hypocritical because I've brought up the Champions League final, but I do think we have to be slightly wary when we do invoke goals and assists.
Yeah, but if you're a midfield player, then surely that's part of your game. You're either scoring or and more importantly, you're assisting, aren't you? I mean,
it's definitely got to be a part of the argument.
But they are different. To be fair, they are different. They are different. They are both of them are different. They're both different. They are different. I mean, he's more of that silky smooth.
All right, but if you're a midfield player in any team,
he's more of an Odegaard, number 10, middle, that type of midfield player. He's a modern day.
Also, would you say De Bruyne was as good as Gerrard in terms of winning the ball back, dropping deep? I don't think he is as good as Gerrard there. This is the thing. You look at the all-round argument.
What can the way I come across to my to my view and who I picked? I mean, one of them was what can Gerrard do, and that De Bruyne can't, and vice versa. And it was
clearly he can't score as many goals, or he can't make as many assists.
I'll tell you what. I've had a look before I come on. This guy was smashing 20 in a season. Gerrard,
no, but he's just giving you the stats.
Gerrard had, I think, two seasons where he's bagged over 20 goals, and 3 seasons where he bagged over 20 goals.
Yeah, and that's
good. But the equivalent is that Kevin De Bruyne is doing that with assists. So. Look, like I said, this was always an argument that was.
Listen, like I said, I can't argue with it being Gerrard if people want it to be. Personally, I think it's Kevin De Bruyne, probably because I see him closer than I saw Gerrard. And to be fair to Farrell, he's seen Gerrard closer than I did. So yeah, listen, it's not something I'll lose sleep over if there was a national vote and it was Steven Gerrard. I've just been blessed because I've managed to see Kevin De Bruyne for 9 seasons, and I've been blessed in doing that.
I think the positioning as well of the players. I think the fact that Gerrard can just play in so many different roles, in so many different positions, and is elite in all those positions, where with Kevin De Bruyne, you just sort of recognise him as just absolutely world class.
So what you're saying then is that
one
Gerrard
position
wasn't really a midfielder; he was a
utility. a little bit.
So,
a little
he
bit
doesn't
like
get
that.
into the
I can't say
midfield.
Gerrard was a utility player. He's not a James Milner.
But look, these are the 3 players that have been brought into the argument over the last week. You know, it's De Bruyne, it's Scholes, and Gerrard. So we're just carrying it on, and we're giving our views for the. You know, I've watched a few of them, and Gerrard, you know, has played fullback. He's played an attacking midfield. He's played in a DM. He's swapped with Torres as a false 9. I mean, De Bruyne don't do that.
Kevin De Bruyne in the City team
doesn't do that,
and not playing in midfield.
It's different. There's horses for courses, isn't it?
So
again, it's subjective.
If Steven Gerrard was playing for Liverpool at right back, then that means there was somebody else playing in midfield that he was the position that he wasn't playing in.
I think it was very rare when he did deputise at right back. We're talking like 90.
That sounds like
90% of
vehicle reversing to me.
It's not my argument. But I mean, he's played primarily as a midfielder. He is a midfielder.
Listen, I would agree with you. I can't recall the number of times that I can't recall him playing in different position many times. He might have done, but my recollection of him was a midfield player of great quality, scored great goals, scored penalties, by the way. Kevin De Bruyne doesn't take penalties, so so that's the goal situation.
And they've both done it for so long, haven't they?
Scored great free kicks as well. Stephen Gerrard scored one of as a neutral, scored one of the best goals I saw when they played a Greek team in the Champions League. I think that was on the way to winning the Champions League against Milan.
We're talking about the Olympiacos game.
Yeah.
Lovely cushioned hair, Gerrard.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the thing that the catalyst for that was the catalyst to get to where they got to, though, weren't it? Yeah, no.
Incredible goal.
Incredible, exceptional players.
Incredible, man.
I'm just disappointed there's no Arsenal players that I can bring up in it, you know, and I'm not honest about that.
Look. But would Vieira not get on that list?
No, he don't. No, not by a long shot. Longevity.
I don't know. He'd get on that list more than Paul Scholes for me.
He's more of a Roy Keane. He's more of a blocker. He's more of a like a destroyer. You know,
I think that's the reason why the argument of these players came up, and the other ones were Frank Lampard was in there. For me, Frank Lampard's not in this calibre.
Vieira being the Keane argument and the Vieira argument, and whoever else.
As always, there's always an Arsenal fan that will crowbar an argument, will throw a reach in there. Dennis Bergkamp's the best Premier League midfielder of all time in these names. Paul's second behind him, Vieira, KDB, Frank Lampard, and then Gerrard.
But Bergkamp wasn't a midfield. Bergkamp was an attacking midfield type forward player. So but for me, if you're going to put Dennis Bergkamp, for me, is the best attacking midfield player ever.
But he's not an attacking midfielder. He's a forward.
Attacking midfielder come forward. No one can touch him.
Yeah, I think Bergkamp was a forward. Really,
he's a forward. It's a reach to say he was a midfielder.
It was just.
Modern day, you could say if he was to play now, I still think Dennis Bergkamp. No, I still think Dennis Bergkamp would be playing for a forward. I think Dennis Bergkamp would be deployed in the same team as a De Bruyne, but I can't say that Bergkamp was a midfielder. He was too good up front to be. He played
as a number 10, didn't he? He played as number 10. You know how Invincible played.
I wouldn't say Gianfranco Zola was a midfielder.
For 10 years, he played behind the front three, or behind. Yeah, he did. Bergkamp played behind the front three in that hole. You know, for 10 years at Arsenal when he played with the Invincible.
That formation was different. It weren't a 4-3-3. Again, 4-4-2, and you had two, and you had one sit behind. It was a different time. You had one just behind the striker. You had one. Bergkamp had a bit more freedom. Yes. Yeah. It's now a modern day. Is that number 10's converted into a midfielder? But he's not. He wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, we had Lundberg. Lundberg played on the right. Omri was down the middle.
Pires.
Then you had Pires on the left,
Yeah.
and Bergkamp played in the hole behind, and he just basically was so good. Wenger
Come on,
just said,
Steve,
"Go."
this isn't AFTV.
He said, "Go where you want, mate. Go, don't insult me by mentioning that name on here, please, in the same breath." You know,
Yeah,
curious
not
now,
the same
like, who
player
yours is.
side. Bergkamp was a forward. He weren't a midfielder. Come back when we're doing the forward ones. I'm sure we're going to have a
he
conversation.
scored over 100 goals for Arsenal. So yeah, he was a bit of everything. He was the best.
He was. James Milner. James Milner's just about to reach an historic landmark where he hits 633rd Premier League game tonight, just overtaking Ryan Giggs, and who is 20 games behind Gareth Barry. What a landmark for a player. A player that both Kevin and Farrell both know about. Kevin, what do you, when you talk about James Milner, what comes to mind?
Well, he was the true utility player and very dependable. I think he always saw himself as a midfield player. And one of the reasons he left City, well, one, because he couldn't quite get into the team often enough. But secondly, when he was playing at left back. And I think, what's his name? The Liverpool manager at the time.
Rodgers?
Rodgers, yeah. Brendan Rodgers had guaranteed him that if he went to Liverpool, he would play. If he plays, he'd play in midfield. But then Rodgers ended up getting sacked, didn't he? So, but listen, he's a very loyal footballer. I think he doesn't cause any problems at all. He wouldn't get on a list like KDB or Gerrard. But in terms of Mr. Dependable, Mr. Loyal, Mr. No Trouble, he would be right at the top of one of those lists. And I think City fans were a little bit bitter when he left. But you know, that in my view, that always happens when they really cared and they wanted him to stay. If a player leaves and the fans don't give a flying what's it, that's because they're quite happy that he leaves. But if supporters are a bit grumpy, and I remember in that sort of 5 months from January to May, when he was seeing out his contract, or we didn't know for sure. Listen, virtually every game, you know, the City fans were singing, "We want you to stay, we want you to stay." But he couldn't get from Pellegrini what he wanted. So for him to then be offered that opportunity by Liverpool was too good an opportunity to turn down. Yeah, listen, and to be up there with the likes of Ryan Giggs and Gareth Barry, who was a fantastic footballer, you know, very underrated, and at City was magnificent. So for him to be part of that, fair play to him. I thought that when he I was a little bit surprised when he left Liverpool and he ended up at Brighton. I thought he might have gone to a championship club or maybe a club abroad. So for him to have his confidence that he was going to go to Brighton and still carry on playing.
Still playing as well. Yeah, no, he is. He's doing well. Farrell, a long servant for Liverpool, won you trophies. How important was James Milner your time while he was at Liverpool?
Oh, he's very important. You know, everything Kevin said, you know, rings absolutely true for his time at Liverpool. So dependable, so reliable, body virtually never broke down, and just a very good guy to have in the dressing room, and a very good guy to have on the pitch. Just anything you'd want from a professional, you know, he had it in abundance. Absolutely lovely man. It's funny you mentioned about sort of the fullback sort of appearances. Obviously, I think he had the vast majority of his appearances did come in midfield for Liverpool, but he spent about 80 appearances in between left and right back. So he had to do his bits outside of his sort of preferred position. But just that kind of player, you could just slot in it. You know, you could slot him in goal. He was just that adaptable. Absolutely brilliant player. He's one of my favourite Liverpool players. To be honest, I've got very, very fond memories of his time at Liverpool. You know, he's just. I was sad, to be honest, even though, you know, he was leaving to go to Brighton at 37. I just thought you just couldn't ask more of him. Like, yeah, absolutely, you know, he won't ever be on a list that of players of the caliber of a Gerrard, De Bruyne, or a Scholes, or Lampard, etc. But you know, I think you could safely say at the time he left City, I think he would have been brilliant for absolutely any top four side.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. And I'm delighted to be. I was surprised. I remember when we did sign him from City. I was surprised that they let him go. But yeah, absolutely delighted.
Yeah,
Well, he was at the end of his contract, so we had no choice really. So
yeah, that's fair enough.
they did want him to stay. I guarantee you that they did want him to stay. But I sort of understood why he wanted to go, because you know he was too good a player to not being getting regular football, and he proved that by signing the 5-year contract at Liverpool and played virtually, you know, most of the time in that. Maybe not the last season, but he was very, very dependable and just got on with it, didn't he?
Oh, God, I remember he'd play at fullback, and I remember sort of seeing fans seeing the team shapes before games and going, "Oh, Milner's at right back again." And it's like, but you put him there, and fine, you might not put in like a 9 out of 10 performance like Trent Alexander-Arnold's capable of, but he'd always get a pretty dependable 7, 6. You know, he was so reliable. He was never that kind of player who just posts an absolute dumpster truck of a performance.
You could never criticise him for the lack of effort, that's for sure.
Yeah. 100%. Fantastic career, and some of the clubs in the list is a true role model to young kids coming through the system. Humble, honest, and it was rude that Newcastle said he wouldn't make it.
And there's a nasty side at times on the football pitch as well.
Yeah, Steve, what model professional, just reliable, nasty side you said on the pitch. Needed. All the best are.
Exactly.
Comes to mind when.
Yeah, exactly.
But can I just remind you?
It's like Kevin De Bruyne was, he can be that.
You were telling us how good Bergkamp was. I think he could be a little bit nasty, couldn't he?
They're all nasty, mate. Mate.
You loved it about Bergkamp.
Mate, I love nasty. If there's anything I love in a player, is nasty. You know, football's too soft nowadays. I'm fed up with these moany people who, you know, Foley. I was watching. I'm not being funny. I'll tell you, I was watching Arsenal the other day. I'm fed up with Jesus rolling over. Fed up with people falling on the floor. Gets on my nerves. The way I used to play, people used to know I was about. You know, I always remember my dad telling me I'm not coming and watching anymore. You know, because he said the guy kept getting sent off. Mind you, that was when my legs started to go a bit. But no, I love a bit of nastiness. Kevin De Bruyne, you know, I love it. I love one of the reasons why I love him because he's nasty. He's got a bit nasty about him. As you said, Bergkamp, nasty. You know, they've all got it. Vieira, Keane, Lampard, Scholes, Gerrard. They're all nasty, aren't they? So all the good, like Kieran said, all the good ones are. But look, I mean, to be honest, I haven't got really much to add on James Milner. I mean, I don't, you know what the clubs that he played for, his England career, the trophies that he's won. You know, speaks for itself, you know, on what type of career he's had. And you know, good luck to him in, you know, in whatever he's going to be doing going forward. He would have to stay in the Premier League though next season now, wouldn't he, to break that record?
Yeah.
How long a contract did he sign at Brighton?
I'm not even sure how long his contract is. Was it expire in the summer? So he'd have to get he's got an option for a further year. So I'm guessing they'd probably take that up.
I think people forget, don't they? People forget about, you know, his England career as well. You know, I think you know, they look at, you know, what he's done in the Premier League and what he's won, but you know, there was times where he was a staple of England squads. So yeah, no, as I say, not my favourite player, not the type of player I liked, and he always seemed to, you know, give it a bit at Arsenal, even though, as I said, I like that in a player. But good luck to Kevin and Farrell. I echo everything they say.
All right. Well, that is the time. However, before we go, let's just clarify one thing. Scholes is in third place. Yeah. Oh, this is so tough.
Why?
Because I feel like my vote's going to count now.
It is going to count.
Personally, I went for Kevin De Bruyne.
Understandable.
At first.
and then.
the Farrell argument was very compelling. It made me think. However, I'm still going to stick with Kevin De Bruyne. Again, it's a personal thing, so that means it's a draw. So they both get first place.
Which is probably just about right, to be fair.
There we go.
I think it's like what I said. It's like what I said at the beginning, right at the beginning of my argument. If I'm talking about a player like I like to watch, you know, and I enjoy it, and if I can, you know, if I could be that player, you know, I would say I want to be Kevin De Bruyne. I want to be Dennis Bergkamp. I want to be Zola. That's the type of player I like. And if I'm going with that, I'm picking De Bruyne all day long. I just went with Gerrard because he's just, you know, won so much. For me, he can do everything De Bruyne does, and that little bit more. Yeah. That's why I went for.
It's a fair argument. It's a fair argument. But that's how we're going to leave it. It's a draw. There we go. Gerrard and Kevin De Bruyne both lift the crown as the greatest midfielders of all time in the Premier League. There we go. Everyone's happy. Thank you for everyone who joined us tonight. Thank you for everyone in the comment section.
Oh, see you later, kids.
And sayonara.
Sayonara. Was he just signed off? But yeah. Anyways, he's coming back.
He's back.
I'm not gonna. It's the mouse. It logs me out for some reason. It doesn't like me. Yeah. Thank you for everyone who's joined us. Thank you for joining us, Steve, Kevin, and Farrell.
Cheers, mate.
Pleasure as always.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
As we always say, hit that like and subscribe if you are new to the show. If you are regular, press that like and press that share button and the copy button. It all helps. As we crown Steven Gerrard and Kevin De Bruyne as the greatest of all time in the Premier League. Peace out, people. Stay safe and wash your hands.
Cheerio.